It's the season of giving, and Del Toro is absolutely doing that with his brand new film, Nightmare Alley, which I really liked. And I have a lot of thoughts on this one because it's unlike anything he has ever made before. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're going to be discussing Nightmare Alley. This takes place, of course, in 1940s New York, where a man down on his luck endears himself and swindles his way into a clairvoyant and her mentalist husband at their traveling carnival. Using newly acquired knowledge, the man crafts a golden ticket to success by swindling the elite and the wealthy. Hoping for a big score soon, he soon hatches a scheme to con a dangerous tycoon with help from a mysterious psychiatrist who might be his most formidable opponent yet. It has an all-star cast of Bradley Cooper, Rooney Mara, Cate Blanchett, Willem Dafoe, Ron Perlman, Toni Collette, Richard Jenkins, and it is, of course, written and directed by Del Toro. I'm one of his big fans. I love most of his movies, and every time he comes out with something, I know it's going to be cinema. It's just the truth, because Del Toro is one of those directors that heavily and very much magically crafts a story that is unlike anything that you will see from other directors, in the way that he brings to light horror and maybe even some of the places that really shouldn't be that horrifying. And for me, the thing that I loved about Nightmare Alley was the way that this is unlike anything he's ever directed before. Definitely a more of a deep dive psychological character study of one man, but at the same time a neo-noir mystery that I was in for the entire runtime. It's not perfect, but man, is there a lot to love in this movie, and that's where we're going to have that great discussion down below. So guys, if you're new here, I love talking movies, and I love talking about films, so make sure to comment down below your guys' thoughts on Del Toro's brand new film, Nightmare Alley. What's your favorite Del Toro movie so far, as well as making sure to hit that like and subscribe button so we can keep talking movies over here on a daily basis. With any movie review, I love starting talking about the pros, so that's where we're going to start today, and one of my major pros is Bradley Cooper's performance. Now, I'm still in contention that man should have won for A Star is Born. Like, it still baffles me that he did not win Best Actor that year. He directed, wrote, produced, and freaking learned to sing and act and all sorts of things like that inside that movie and absolutely killed it. But this might be rivaling to be one of his best performances yet. I've always liked Cooper as an actor, but this movie absolutely shot him up to stardom. Every chapter, because this movie's broken up into acts or chapters, or whatever you want to call it, and you can definitely tell when one chapter ends in the way that Del Toro decides to edit the movie. And when one chapter ends, it opens up to a second chapter. When that second chapter ends, it opens up to a third chapter. And with most movies, usually it starts strong and it starts to die out towards the end. This is actually the opposite of Nightmare Alley, where the movie started a little bit weak. I was still intrigued, but it started weak and it got better and better, and so did Bradley Cooper's performance, because from the first scene that you see him in, you are locked into his character and wanting to see where this character ends up going by the very end of it. And if that's the accomplishment of this movie, is to get your attention, then Del Toro does that best within this movie, and I loved what Bradley Cooper was able to bring to this performance. Again, a psychological, horrifying performance, and of a mysterious man that you think you know, but the more that opens up, you learn a lot more about. Honestly, the rest of the cast is really good. Rooney Mara, Willem Dafoe, Ron Perlman, Toni Collette, Richard Jenkins, they're all phenomenal. You expect that from these actors and actresses. But the absolute other hand-in-hand best performance of the film was Cate Blanchett, who in every single scene, the way that Del Toro frames her is like this monster, this scary opponent. In every single moment, the way that he frames it when she stands up in the room, she is the shining light in that room, and everyone is looking at it, no matter how intimidated that you might be from her character. And that just goes off to show how strong Blanchett is in this role and how much I absolutely adored her in this performance. And I actually think it is one of her best performances of the last couple of years. I loved her in this. And really much, I think Del Toro, again, does such a good job of bringing these characters to life, already elevating these performances into such a whole other light, because Del Toro is the absolute other star of this entire movie. From a technical achievement, this movie is such in craftsmanship that it absolutely blew me away. Set design to the costume design, all of it is magnificent. There's a couple moments in particular where the cinematography really much captured such an elegant moment, or even a horrifying moment, but it really fit for the entire tone of this neo-noir that Del Toro crafted. Honestly, we haven't seen a neo-noir from him yet. We've seen superhero movies, we've seen big blockbuster kaiju movies, we've seen straight horror films, and we've seen, of course, Shape of Water, which was more of a romance, which I adored. And that's where I go to this, is it's so different than anything he's ever crafted, but he's taking all the elements that he's ever made before in a film and crafting it and packing it into a film that really much deserves that craftsmanship and needs it to really much further out the story. Because like I said, every scene, every moment, the attention to detail with every single thing shines out loud, and you're wanting to capture every little essence, and it very much settles you in, and you completely forget that you were even in a movie theater because of how gorgeous this film looks. A couple scenes in particular, there's one towards this nice garden towards the third act where Rooney Mara is walking up and you're sitting there looking at it in just awe of all the snow dripping down and the horrifying chilling tone that's kind of going up your spine because you don't know what's going to happen. Also, this fun house at this carnival that of course Bradley Cooper works at, and as he's walking around this fun house, there's these creepy elements, and just again, that production design is such a big extravagant light of it all. But let me say this, I did watch the trailer after I saw the movie to see what is going on, and the trailer did such a good job of hiding so much of this film that even with that said, you don't know where this movie's going. Now you might be able to piece it towards the back half of the film, but even with that said, it still keeps you on edge the entire way through, and I was thoroughly impressed with Del Toro's directing in here. I'm always impressed with Del Toro's directing. He's one of the best directors working today. This guy believes in cinema, and it makes me believe in cinema at times too. One of the directors that I feel like is absolutely continuing to really much just dive in and hone in his skill and develop it and expand it into such a whole other light, where we see many other directors that we might be big fans of, but they're continuing to do the same thing. And in a sense, this is a gorgeous slice of old school Hollywood horror that we haven't seen in a while in the way that it was developed within neo-noir. Honestly, it makes me obsessed just even thinking about the chilling atmosphere that Del Toro was able to bring into here. One of my last pros that I do want to mention is how much I loved the themes of this. Now, I don't want to dive into it due to spoilers, but really much this is a film that you are going to want to analyze. And I think even though I'm at the point where I really liked this movie and loved moments of it, I think this movie will only grow on me with more rewatches. And I feel like that's a lot of Del Toro movies where you see it and you're like, okay, that wasn't what I expected it to be, but let's watch it again. And you watch it again, you're like, okay, I love this movie. It happens a lot. I think Crimson Peak is actually one of the movies that happened to me, and I was like, okay, I understand why more people actually love this movie after multiple rewatches. This is where I do want to get into my cons, because while I said that this film builds and builds and builds, making each act better than the last, I do want to mention something, that this is a 2.5-hour movie, and I do feel like there were maybe 10 to 15 minutes that probably could have been cut out, because the beginning of the film, I sat there going, okay, what's the point of this? I was definitely enjoying my time and enjoying the build-up and kind of trying to settle into what Bradley Cooper's character was all about and what direction that was going to go in. But as it kind of got to the end and as it left the theater, I sat there and I was like, okay, I love the ending. I think the third act is one of the best third acts that we've ever gotten in a film within 2021. And even the second act is such a psychological, tension-filled film and the whole thing that it builds upon. But the first act, while you need a lot of different layers in there to really much make those next two acts totally hit on par, there was a couple moments where I did feel like it got a little bit repetitive. And I was sitting there, I was like, all right, let's move this a little bit long. It feels a little bit meandering. And again, while it's a different change of pace for Del Toro, I feel like that was the one avenue that I maybe would have changed to really help out the entire film overall. Damn, I'm obsessed. I continue to think about this movie and its psychological thrilling tension that it brought me to. Nightmare Alley is nothing I expected to get, for good and for worse. It might be Del Toro's strongest thematically made film, and what a twisted atmosphere that had me in awe at every turn. It's incredibly made and slow first chapter, but once it gets going, I was completely all in. The third act is one of my favorite acts of any film within 2021, and Bradley Cooper's fantastic performance in here should not be understated with how amazing he is. Del Toro crafted a movie that is unlike anything that he's ever made before. This stylish, sexy neo-noir that is psychologically tense and haunting at the same time will make you continue to think about it till you leave after the theater. Even if I felt like the first act was meandering, get past it, build it all in, breathe it all in, and pay attention to every single ounce of detail, because you will need it. So with all that said, I'm going to give Nightmare Alley an A-. Once again, guys, for watching this, you guys are seriously all the best. I honestly expect this movie to improve on rewatches and maybe even get rid of that meandering feeling that I had in the first act. But besides that, I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on this movie. So again, hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below your guys' thoughts. If you're interested in seeing movies early, head on over to Sandwich on Films on how to see those. And of course, a big thank you to you guys. So of course, until next time, stay classy.